to the Travel Bug Girls podcast, the show where we dive into the world of travel, exploring everything from expert tips and insider secrets to unforgettable destinations and the latest trends. Whether you're a seasoned globetrotter or planning your very first adventure, we've got you covered with the advice and inspiration you need to make your travels truly unforgettable. So sit back, relax, and let's take your travel planning to the next level. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Travel Bug Girls podcast. I'm Kimmy here with Tina and Heather, and today we are going to talk about choosing the right cruise line. So I found some fun facts about cruise lines I thought was interesting. So the first pool on a cruise line was in 1906.
Oh,
surprisingly, yes. It was on the Adriatic, which was a White Star Line cruise ship. But it was not like on the top, it was like in the middle of the ship. So it was basically like a oversized, like an indoor oversized Spock tub kind of thing. Not like a pool that we would be thinking of. And now the largest pool on a cruise ship is a 40,000 gallon pool, and it is on Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, and it's one of 7 pools on the ship, so it's not even the only pool. So 40,000 gallons is huge.
recently the largest ship ever made.
And if you ever see a picture of it docked with any of the other cruise ships next to it, I mean, it makes every other cruise ship look like so puny, which is something that we're going to talk about, something that you'll want to consider when you're choosing a cruise line. So we're going to talk about kind of different types of cruise lines, factors you want to consider, and then we'll talk about maybe some of our own cruising experience. So first of all, there's different kinds of cruise lines. There's, larger ships, small ships. I mean, there's like real small ships, luxury, very high-end expedition cruises, river cruises. So for this episode, we're going to talk mostly about ocean cruises, but there are 27 river line cruise lines, and that kind of experience is more of you get on a river at one end, you're going to sail down the river, you're going to stop at different cities, get off tour, get back on, go to the next city. So it's kind of more extended and like a daily city kind of focus, which is a little bit different than an ocean type cruise. I've found an interesting statistic that was surprising to me. In 2023, CLIA reported that 88% of millennials who have cruised plan to cruise again, and that's the highest of any age demographic, which was I would have thought it would be like the seniors. So I thought the millennials, which is like the age group probably like I'm just barely not a millennial, is the ones that really are, cruising now. So interesting there. So let's talk about cruise lines kind of have a personality. Let's talk about maybe just some of the more major cruise lines and the different personalities between those cruise lines. What have y'all seen as far as that goes?
Yeah, cruise lines definitely have personalities and they attract certain clientele, and it can be in different ways. It can be in the design of the ship. Like a ship that is aimed at attracting young families with children is going to have a lot of play equipment, a lot of children's spaces, a lot of pools with slides and different fun features like that, and a lot of entertainment that's focused around children's programming. So it's something to keep in mind that, a ship that is designed for families may be different than a ship that allows families, but isn't really primarily focusing on that clientele. So there are other cruise lines that really would attract more like their grandparents. and yet they allow children because they want multi-generational families to come and cruise together and have a good time. So they'll have some features for children, but it won't be the primary focus. It'll be mostly focused on keeping the seniors happier and comfortable. And so these are the kinds of things to remember. There are some ships that are designed more for, adventure and like activities during the day on the ship that are really physical and interactive, and others that are focused more on entertainment, where you're sitting maybe in a theater and observing something. And then there are other ships that are really known for their food and just exquisite dining experiences. So knowing what you're looking for really matters. And the ships can cater to those different demographics in very specific ways, starting with ship design all the way down to their featured food and entertainment and then general atmosphere. Is it going to be a party ship, or is it going to be more about relaxing? Or like you said, with those that are expedition voyages, is it more about education? So knowing what you're looking for in your vacation is the place to start.
Do we want to name what cruise lines we think fit in those different categories? As you're talking, I'm naming them in my mind. So we want to throw that out there. I think we can do that.
Sure, I'll be brave and say some names.
I'll tell you if I agree.
I will say this is my opinion. So far. And each of these companies is dynamic and growing and changing. And so that's something to keep in mind, that, each is coming out with new ships and new programming. So currently, the way I think about it and the way I would guide a client is, if they have active young children, then I'm pointing them towards, based on their budget and their place they're going. And a lot of factors go into choosing a cruise, okay? But typically speaking, if you have young children and you're worried about keeping them entertained and happy, then Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Disney would be the three main companies I'm pointing you towards. And typically I'm pointing you towards Royal Caribbean, because I think that they're a better fit for most families, unless you're looking for a budget cruise. But something I hope we'll talk about later is that whole budget concept. It doesn't actually always, we got to get into pricing later.
Yeah.
But, and we talked about that in our episode, is a bargain really a bargain? A little. But I would say Royal Caribbean is probably what I would point families to, even up through like high school in general. And then like couples that are wanting to go, or like groups of adult friends, I'm going to probably, with a few exceptions, point you towards Virgin. It's adults only. The entire ship is designed for adults, so there's not play spaces. The pool is designed for adults lounging with drinks by the pool, and bartenders that are going to bring you cocktails to the pool, things like that. So it's designed entirely for an adult experience, and the programming really matches that as well, with restaurant style dining that you're not paying extra for. It's all included. So like for a girls trip or an anniversary trip or something, then that would be what I would be promoting first for my clients, typically. And then when it comes to grandparents, either traveling alone or with multi-generation, I think Norwegian is a good fit. There's some other companies that are really good. MSC and Princess have some really nice features. But right now I'm finding Norwegian seems to be a really good fit for those multi-generational groups. And also some of their Alaskan cruising is like their options for extended tours in Alaska paired with the cruise is a really great feature right now. So I'm finding Norwegian's a good fit for those that are looking to go that route as well.
I would say Celebrity too. Add Celebrity to that. And Celebrity also has some of those expedition, more like educational type cruises, and like some really small ships that are almost like a yacht, like you're riding So really a more personal experience, which is really interesting. So yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead,
think
Tina.
expedition cruising and yacht cruising were things I didn't know existed really before I became a travel agent. And like there's some very neat experiences like Galapagos Islands and Antarctica expeditions. And there's some just really unique experiences people can do. I think there's even companies doing like the Amazon River. I mean, that would just be like, that's my little girl fantasies would be like, you know, I'm an explorer in the jungle. Like, I want to do the
Jungle
Nile River
cruise.
cruise and the Amazon River cruise as an expedition style where you're learning about the history and the geography and all of that. I just think that would be amazing. But that's different than a lot of family vacations typically. So, something to keep in mind, though, that there is really something for everyone. So, if you can imagine it and it has something to do with water, you know, my
It's
husband wants
probably
to
out
do like
there
these little
somewhere.
sailing cruises where like you're fed but you're on a sailboat. That exists too. So there's something for everyone when it comes to cruising.
And I think that you can make it either like you're going on a cruise just to party and have fun, or you can design. There's different ones like, you know, you have your higher end and your Viking cruises and things like this where you're going to have the specialty dining that is already included. You're going to have all of these special things, and you know, while you're on the cruise, you're not just waiting for the next port. You're learning something. Not necessarily. It's not necessarily the expedition like a National Geographic cruise maybe, or one of those explorations, but you know, you're learning, you're opening your mind, you're having these different experiences that are involved in these trips.
What are our clients going to want to consider when they are choosing which cruise line they're going to work with? I mean, we kind of touched on it a little in the personality, but there's a lot more things that you need to consider. So what are some factors that you guys would recommend people looking at?
I think what I see typically, especially in our age group, is people focusing on price and they're just choosing it based on price and destination alone. That's really the wrong approach for several reasons. Destination obviously matters. Like you want to know where you're going, and like a lot of times people are like, I want to sail the Caribbean. Okay, that's great. Or I want to go to the Bahamas. That's awesome. That's a starting point that is better than price. But price, I think, should be maybe your deciding factor at the end. Like find 3 cruises that fit what you're looking for, and then maybe your price is the one that sets one above the other. Because there's so many things that go into price, and there's a lot of hidden fees, a lot of hidden expenses in cruising in the industry. It's like a standard now, and it's like everyone's accepted it. So now it's a common practice. So it's important to know that ahead of time and not choose your cruise line based on price from the beginning. So a lot of people have heard rumors and have repeated this rumor over and over until they think it's true that Carnival is the cheapest option. And that's not always true. I'm not saying anything negative about Carnival. Carnival's great for what it's designed for, but it's not always the cheapest. It just sometimes looks like it at the beginning. So if you're looking to save money, if that's your primary perspective, then look deeper. But the other thing is, what is it you're looking to get out of it? This is what we preach in all of our episodes, I feel like, is what experience are you looking to have? And if you've never cruised before, this is harder because you don't really know what you're getting into. And I think what people tend to do is just go with the cruise lines they've heard about on TV or on Facebook, or they just go wherever their friend went. You know, hey, my friend went, you know, we live in Texas, so they went on Carnival out of Galveston to Mexico. And I've never been on a cruise, and that sounds like fun, so I'm going to go on Carnival out of Galveston to Mexico. And that there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great trip. But is that really what you wanted? Because you get this one vacation this year. So like, let's make sure it's really what you want. What do you want to do? Do you care more about the ship? Icon of the Seas is more about the ship. They can go to some incredible destinations, but the reason they built that ridiculously enormous ship is so that they could fit more experiences inside the boat for the days that you're in the ship than it is about where you're going. So it's something to know. Whereas if you really only care about getting to a destination, then first of all, maybe cruising's not for you. And second of all, you need to think about like the destination above the ship itself. You know, if you're just going to sleep on the ship, then do you really care? Like, don't spend extra money on a fancy ship if you just are, it's like your floating hotel. So these cruise lines are mostly designed to entertain you on the boat. So keep that in mind when you're choosing your company. How do I want to be entertained? And what is value for me in that regard?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important to remember. I know that I had a client who was going to be traveling with his teenage daughter, but she was going to be turning 18 before they left. And she's like, I don't want to go on a little kiddie cruise. I'm like, well, you could go to Virgin, but are you going to have things that you want to do? Where if you're on like a Royal Caribbean, at least you can get onto the water slide. I don't care if you're 18, you're still maybe going to like the water slide, but at the same time, they wanted to have the experiences of the ports. So they ended up going on a smaller cruise ship because yes, they wanted to have the experience, but they didn't want to necessarily have the overwhelming experience for their first cruise of the Icon or something like that. That is just, it's so much. I know that might be great for some people, but I know my first couple cruises, I thought the boats were huge. And I think that they were probably half the size of, or a quarter of the size maybe. And I had plenty of time to move around. You're probably not going to even see all of that cruise ship unless you're there for like a couple weeks. And some of those cruises aren't that long.
I think the larger cruises are better suited for longer trips. And also, I would not start off with something like that, because then you might be disappointed on your next one when you go to a smaller ship, if that's what you're expecting them all to be like. And I actually had a client who was very wise and said that to me before she's like, we've been seeing all this advertising about Icon of the Seas. This is like the month that was coming out, we've been seeing all this advertising about it, but I just feel like for our first family cruise, I don't know that I want to set my expectation there, when maybe we would be just as happy with something smaller and then work our way up to that. And I thought that's wisdom right there. Because really that's the truth of the matter, is a lot of these companies are coming out with more and more and more and more. And it's because they have repeat customers who've seen it all, who've done it all, but they still want to go with them. They're very comfortable with that brand, and maybe they have loyalty points and stuff, but they're looking for something new, a new experience. And so that's a major factor in why companies are coming out with these bigger, more intricate ships. But for the first time cruiser, it could be overkill. It really can be too much. So start small maybe. And I think another thing that speaks to your point, Tina, about the ports and the smaller ships is it is important to know that the bigger a ship is, the less destinations it can pull into. So these smaller ships can go to locations that the bigger ships can't go to.
Yeah.
So smaller islands, in Alaska, even there are certain ports that the big ships can't get into. So it's important to really know what it is you're looking for. If you're wanting to go to some of the smaller islands, then you're going to need to be on a smaller ship and be happy with that experience and really focus on what matters to you.
And I think another thing to kind of look at is not only the time that you're going to be spending, how long of a cruise that you want, but we kind of talked about this in our last episode. Maybe you're adding onto another trip. And then there are some cruises that, are closed loop. You come back to the same place that you left from, but some of them, will start in, over somewhere else, and you cross the whole ocean. So you can have a whole other trip before you get back to your original destination. There's lots of different ways that you can create these trips. Especially if you, like you were saying, you know, maybe if the destination is most important, maybe you shouldn't be on a cruise, but maybe you take that vacation first, and then you get to stop on the way home with a cruise on a boat.
Mediterranean cruises are a great example of that. You know, I had a client last year that wanted to do a big extensive trip. They spent 3 weeks on a vacation, and it was a special reason. You know, it wasn't what they do all the time, but they did a European vacation first, where they went to multiple cities and stayed in hotels and beautiful places. And then they did a Mediterranean cruise from one location to another. So their goal was to see as many countries as possible in the 3 weeks they had, but also be relaxed and comfortable. It was a great way to do that. But not all Mediterranean cruises are like that. Some are circular, like you said, and others really only go to like 2 ports. It's really about more being on the ship. So it really depends on what you're looking for. If you want to stop in 5 different places, you know, Italy, Greece, France, Spain, like if you're wanting to see the multiple countries of the Mediterranean, that's a different cruise than someone who's just like, I'm on a Mediterranean cruise, sailing around in the Mediterranean on this beautiful ship, you know. And both are wonderful vacations, but they're different styles for different people. So make sure you know what you're getting into, and what those expectations are what can make or break any vacation. If you're expecting to see a whole lot of places and then you never really get off the ship, then you might be really disappointed. So make sure you know what you're agreeing to, and choose an itinerary that fits your style of travel.
That's a good point. Something else we need to talk about for cruise ships, it's a big deal on cruise ships, is dining options. I feel like that is a major deal, like a major factor. So let's talk about that, like different dining options and kind of how they work on a lot of cruise ships.
There are multiple dining styles, and every cruise line has their own preferred way of doing things. And some offer several options in one cruise for different price points. So you're definitely going to want to, if you have a preference, you're going to want to do your research or work with a travel agent who can help guide you in this area. One option is cafeteria style. And most cruise ships, except for maybe the very smallest ones, most cruise ships will have something like a food court that's open all of the day or 24 hours, so that there's always some food available and you can come and pick and choose what you like. But then other restaurant or other cruise lines, I would say the most common thing is a combination of an open food court and a dining room, where you have an assigned table or an assigned time of day that you're having your meals, and then it's waiter service at your dining table. And Carnival, the first Carnival cruise I went on, had that combination of an open food court and then an assigned table an hour for us to have dinner. And so we were eating with the same people. They were assigned to the same table every night. Some people really love that because they make friends that way, because you're sitting with them every evening for dinner. So that's a nice option. Those usually are all you can eat. They'll keep bringing you more food, but it's from a set menu, and they can make some accommodations. But you know, if they have 5 options that evening and you don't really like any of them, then your next option is to go to the food court and pick up something there. So that's something to keep in mind. And the food, because it's made that way, where like everybody has the same 5 options tonight and it's all you can eat. It's bulk cooking, which is not a bad thing, but if you're a serious foodie, you're going to be maybe disappointed in that style of cooking. Just, you know, practicality dictates that it's not going to be a higher level of cooking where every dish is made individually by hand just for you, kind of a situation. So something to keep in mind. If you're a serious foodie, then you're going to want to choose a dining option that's designed for that. There are certain cruise lines that are really known for their cooking, and a lot of times you're paying extra for a more restaurant style experience where they take your order and they hand cook your food to order. And some of these cruise lines are advertising top chefs, like well-known chefs that are designing their menus for those restaurant style dining. But usually you're paying an extra fee, either like the option might be to book like one night at the steakhouse or one night at the Italian restaurant, and it's like a special occasion kind of a situation, and you're paying a premium for one night, for one dinner. Or another option might be that you're paying for a dining package that gives you access all you want to those extra dining options, but you're paying upfront a much larger fee that's going to include that access. So those are two other things to consider. Usually these extra dining experiences are going to cost you a significant amount of money, and you just need to know it up front that that's a normal standard practice. And the smaller ships may not even have an extra dining room. So your only option is the food court and your assigned dining space. And then the next tier would be something like Virgin, where their entire modality is all inclusive. And so they've designed their ship with the idea of the restaurant style dining being the standard. So there's no one main dining room where everyone goes and sits at a certain hour and they're all fed the same food. That doesn't happen. You have themed restaurants that are included with your price. So nobody's paying extra to go to those restaurants, and you can choose what dinner reservation hour you want at which restaurant. And when they're full, and you're on a waiting list, like at a real restaurant. So you can go to like the Korean barbecue, or you can go to the Italian restaurant or the steak restaurant, and you can mix and match during the week what restaurants you want to go to. But they also have the food court available and a pizza place available and other options, so that if you're not wanting to sit down and do the restaurant, you can just grab and go during the week. So those are some different styles that you're going to see, and you're going to see some variation of all of those on every cruise line, essentially.
Let's talk about family friendly versus adult only. Like,
family friendly is definitely going to have programming designed for children, and they're going to have rooms that are designed to accommodate families. So maybe bunk beds plus a queen size bed in your cabin, something like that, or adjoining rooms, so that it makes it easier for families to stay together. And the dining experience will also take into consideration families with small children that might need to eat at earlier hours, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of consideration that goes into family programming and the entertainment and the spaces. So a ship that's designed for that is going to have to put a lot of work and money into that thought process. Adults only can sound risque to Americans, but it doesn't need to be that considered that way. It just means that children aren't allowed, and there aren't accommodations for children. There's not programming for children. There's no playground or, water slide that's designed for little kids. There's none of that is on the ship. And they're really taking into account what do adults want on vacation.
thanks for joining us for today's episode of the Travel Bug Girls podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It really helps the show grow and allows us to bring you more amazing content. We'd love to connect with you on social media. Find us online at travelbuggirls.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep dreaming, and safe travels.